Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Retrospective, Avatar Legend of the Last Retrospective. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Matt Garingo.
Booyah.
Yeah. Boomerang, yeah.
Wait a minute. Remind me. Remember on the Teen Titans cartoon, Cyborg always said booyah?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they make him say that in the Justice League movie?
They did, and that might be a point of controversy that we don't have time to get into.
I was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Nothing's really come from that. We're still in July for the people in the future listening to this in the world where the United States is now split into 4 different nations. But there was that happened like 2 weeks ago. And
oh yeah, fuck! It
feels
feels like both
away.
longer and shorter than it was.
I know, but it kind of just like went away.
Not in according to Ray Fisher's Instagram and Twitter posts.
Oh really? Is he still on it?
I'm pretty sure. Like, we don't know what happened, but I definitely am more willing to believe him now that more people seem to be following his lead, not in the situation specifically, but like, you know, just accountability over entertainment. I'm seeing that go around a lot, and so that's good. That's a good message to send at least.
Yeah, well, I just wonder what was the thing that finally gave him the confidence to say that.
The Snyder Cut happening, I guess.
I guess, but it's weird. You know, it's kind of ballsy on his part, which I respect.
Yeah, because that movie, like, wasn't a hit, and his career didn't really go anywhere, and now it kind of has the opportunity to again. That's cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that. You know what would be
I might
perfect?
Just cut that little snippet there.
You know what would be perfect? No, leave it in. You know what would be perfect? If
all right. But
they film the Snyder Cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by the time they're ready to release it, HBO Max has died. Because of lack of subscribers. So now they have this full movie and they don't know what to do with it.
No, you know what's going to happen? All the different branches of HBO are going to be folded into HBO Max. Because that's kind of what's been happening already. Like, some Roku devices aren't playing like the other HBOs now. You need HBO Max, and it's weird.
Yeah, but I still don't think it's going to... I don't know. There's a good chance HBO Max might not work.
Well, that's what happens when you have, like, several different tiers all called HBO.
These fucking people.
Anyways,
I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, and they didn't, like, this, I can't really blame them, but they didn't understand. Like, I was like, yeah, like, all the movie studios are owned by, like, 4 companies.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what are you talking about? And I had to explain to him, and I was like, well, AT&T owns Time Warner, and which now I believe like they've split up a little bit where it's like Warner Media and AT&T or something. And then I was like, Viacom owns CBS, Comcast owns Universal, and then there's the Walt Disney Company, and they were like, oh, I didn't know that. And sometimes you're just amazed what like other people don't know.
Mm.
It's concerning, Diego.
It is very concerning. And speaking of things people might not know, is on this show, we go over 5 episodes every episode of this podcast of Avatar The Last Airbender. It's been working out pretty well, so we're probably just going to continue that in Season 2. Season 3, I think, also. But again, we're going to play some of this by ear, because some of the episodes are broken up in odd capacities that I just want to make sure we touch all like the part 1s and part 2s together, and thankfully the end of season 1 makes that a lot easier for us. So today's episodes we'll be talking about chapter 16, The Deserter, chapter 17, The Northern Air Temple, chapter 18, 19, and 20, The Waterbending Master, and Siege of the North part 1 and 2. I kind of combined those last 3 because they are all kind of like one story. And we'll get there. We'll get there. It's clear why they're fan favorites, is all I'll say. But first up, Chapter 16, The Deserter. And again, on this podcast, we're also presuming that you just watch the episodes along with us, and you're ready to talk about the episodes as if you had just seen them. So we're not going to spend too long going over the plot on a beat-by-beat basis. But this is the first episode, Matt, where they discover a friendly firebender.
Yes. I should say, first of all, if you are listening to this in the future, and I'm assuming we're going to release these episodes once a week like we normally do. This would be our 4th week then.
Yes.
You should have finished the series by now. That's on you. So get on it if you haven't.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it by now, like, come on, get with the program. But if you want to do it week by week and do like an episode per weekday, I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah,
I think I'll try doing that when I'm uploading these, but we'll see.
No, all right. Anyway, we meet a friendly firebender. Well, they end up in a Fire Nation town, right? Which is where.
Yeah.
What's interesting about the show is like the geography of it's always kind of interesting. I had a map a little while back that like showed where each episode was, and it like kind of made sense. But in the first few episodes, it feels like it feels like maybe they retroactively made up where certain things were located. Although they have that map at the beginning of the show that I think remained relatively the same throughout it.
Yeah, well, remember that I forget it. This might lean credence to your like retroactive thing, but they do talk about Fire Nation colonies a lot of the time, like occupying the Earth Kingdom. Excuse me. But this is probably like a Fire Nation colony town, because they're not in the Fire Nation in this episode. They're just in a town that belongs to the Fire Nation.
I looked up the map, and they are in Earth Nation territory, but it's a Fire Nation town, so it's like an occupation thing, I guess. They all seem pretty happy, all these fire people living in the town.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, when you live under fascism.
Yeah. They just moved in kind of quick.
I mean, hey, they who knows, maybe they've been there for like 20 years.
Yeah. Man, they're not fighting this war very well if they've been at war with the Earth Nation for 100 years.
Well, I think this Earth has like so much ground to conquer, And then, of course, we eventually get to the point in the series where they explain that Ba Sing Se is kind of like the place. Like, if you have Ba Sing Se, like, you're not going anywhere.
Well, this isn't a spoiler for these episodes, because this is the episode where they explicitly say that Uncle Iroh failed to conquer Ba Sing Se.
Mm-hmm.
And that's partly why he's disgraced.
I feel like we're struggling to talk about this episode a little bit. I don't see why, because I actually think it's a pretty good one. What did you think about the deserter?
I wasn't struggling at all.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to take it some places.
Oh, okay.
To cover a diverse bit of ground.
Oh, okay.
I threw the ball in your corner, and you're like, well, you've been fucking it up.
No.
It's like, oh, how's Diego going to ping this one back at me? And then, I guess not.
No, I just don't have a lot about like the geography or anything like that. I like this episode a lot because of how it really highlights the different bendings, and how when the character we meet is Zhang, who's his firebending master, and he goes to great lengths to show that firebending, he feels that it's more of a curse than a gift. It's a burden to have that much power. And the series goes on to explain later, like, it's not, no bending is just one thing, which is a great approach, obviously, but like that it basically scares Aang by the end of this episode, like, from touching it ever again. And because, he tries playing, he literally plays with fire, and Katara gets hurt. He burns her hands. And it's kind of a harsh moment in the middle of a generally lighthearted episode.
Yes, back to this Fire Nation village.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You got a point. You got a point to make. Go ahead.
I was just fascinated by this because I can't think of too many other shows where when the characters end up in quote-unquote enemy territory, where the day-to-day lives are just shown as, like, fairly mundane and happy of the people who are ostensibly the villains of the show. I can't think of too many other shows that did that, which is what I thought was interesting.
No, I like that you brought this up, because it is, it's not painting everyone as, like, just the villains because they're in the Fire Nation, you know? Like, it does a really good job of, like, naturally showing that it's kind of the hierarchy of the Fire Nation is the problem. The people can attribute to the problem, obviously, but they are not inherently the problem. Like, they're not born evil, you know?
Yeah, well, through the Deserters story, we kind of get, like, good glimpse into, like, what that culture's like. Whereas the festival's kind of just, like, this happy thing, full of a bunch of dorks showing off their magic abilities and selling weird food that just burns you. Don't really understand that one.
Because it's fun. I would do... I mean, it's basically just spicy food. That's, like, the ultimate
I know,
spicy
but, like,
food.
But it, like, gave him, like, a third-degree burn on his tongue. That's a little...
I would do that once in my life.
What if they brought the Hot Ones guy on the Avatar? And they dressed him in, like, Fire Nation garb. And it was like the different avatars all came on for episodes, and, like, they had to see how far they could go.
Avatar Kyoshi! This camera, this camera, this camera! Tell the people what you got going on.
And then, you know, Avatar Roku's like, wow, that's actually a very good question. Which is something that seems to happen on that show a lot.
Yeah. Well, credit to the Hot Ones guy. He's actually pretty well read for an interviewer, especially compared to, like, some other people that go viral online. You're like, really? This is what people like?
Well, it seems like a lot of the people that come on there have their guard down because they think it's just like a gimmick. Mm-hmm. And then the guy has, like, real questions.
Yeah. I mean, Hot Ones, it always makes me want to get some hot wings. And they clearly do the fuck out of their research, which is more than I can say for a lot of other people, so.
You know who should play a firebender? Like, who should voice one? Bill Burr. Just inexplicably, one of the firebenders has a Boston accent now. He's, you know, that guy's got some fire energy going on.
You know what? I see it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Great.
Fire Nation women are kind of overrated. You right? Right? Am I right?
Yeah, I know. Like, there's a whole bit about Fire Nation. Like, oh, they love you when you're dating, and then it's like, oh, you didn't know I could firebend? Some stupid shit.
And, like, what's up with these Water Nation tribes, right? Like, okay, we gotta believe all waterbenders. Okay, like, 85% I'll give you.
But all? There's never a reason to burn someone with your firebending. Oh, really? That'd be great.
That'd be amazing. He's really good in The King of Staten Island.
I know. I liked that movie. People seem to not like it.
I liked it a lot. But I like Judd Apatow's
best movie.
Funny People I still like more.
I like Funny People, but all, you know... that'll something I'll have to save, I guess, for the other podcasts we do.
Yeah.
But there's something about a lot of early Apatow that, like, I always kind of killed those movies for me. Mm-hmm. That thankfully has been stripped away.
Okay.
But the deserter, the titular deserter...
Played by Bill Burr.
Yes, played by Bill Burr. Now that would be incredible. Yeah. He escaped in his helicopter. A Fire Nation helicopter. And it's just Bill Burr. Like, they don't even try to, like, integrate him into, like, the other characters. It is just Bill Burr, but he's part of the Fire Nation.
Well, he's in an episode of The Mandalorian, and that made that episode for me. Yeah.
He's great. I like Bill Burr.
Yeah.
As an actor, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's a line in this I was trying to get to before I got distracted by my own stupid bullshit. Is they mentioned that no one is able to leave the Fire Nation army without, like, if you try to leave, you're executed. Which is a window into how the Fire Nation maybe does things.
Well, they're fascists. Like,
yeah, I'm not like acting like I'm shocked. I'm just saying that there's a bad version of this where all of this is given to us in like the first episode, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, oh, if you try to leave the military, you'll be killed or something like that. But this show does a really good job at like slowly giving you the information.
Yeah, I think I talked about it in the first episode we recorded about this, but like, it's so nice that these are subtitled like book seasons. And again, not to make it like, it's not really a TV show, it's more like a novel. But the pacing is definitely more similar to that than it is like even like a prestige TV show, you know? After they decided to go that route with like the pacing and the structure of the show, it just totally lets them flourish in a way that I think a lot of other similar shows have struggled to kind of replicate, you know? Like even Game of Thrones, which is only like on average 10 episodes every season, like there are just some duds in those seasons. Even like the great ones that people really love, right? Like, because then like nothing happens.
Well, there would always be like 2 or 3 every season that was just about moving characters around.
Yeah, except for the first, that first season holds the fuck up. That's a great season of television.
Really tight in its storytelling, but it's just like that's just because at that point it hasn't spun out of control.
Yeah, of course.
Although we've technically passed the date where we can legally arrest George R. R. Martin for not getting the Winds of Winter out.
Sorry, George, your time is up,
George.
motherfucker. Oh yeah, that was like before the day of recording this, like literally just yesterday, huh?
Yeah, that was like the big joke everyone was making for 5 minutes before some horrific shit happened in this country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it seems that we can't even enjoy memes for like 2 minutes.
I wonder if George R. R. Martin's a fan of The Last Airbender.
I doubt he watches it. Doesn't he like work on like he works on like an Apple II computer or something?
Yeah, I don't understand him.
And if you watch, there's a video of him typing, and he does that thing where he just types with 2 fingers.
Oh, no! That's why it's taking him so long!
I know.
No way! Oh,
but,
no!
Yeah,
it'll never finish now.
Hey, we'll see.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's this video of him doing it. It's an interesting...
Holy shit. Yeah, it's over. I've lost all hope. Good. I love him still, but like I lost all hope now.
There's this video, I think it was like a tour of his house or something. Some interviewer came and he's got like all these like figurines and stuff, I mean he's a nerd, so like that's not shocking.
Yeah.
But he'll have like dragons and he'll be like, this is a scientifically accurate dragon.
Sorry.
It's like dragons aren't real, George. And his argument is because he's like, there's no, there's no mammal or reptilian species that has more than 4 legs, which is why the like wings of dragons in Game of Thrones are like also their other appendage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not like they have 4 feet and 2 wings. It's like they have 2 feet and then 2 wings. So that to him is the scientifically accurate version of a dragon.
Oh, I love them.
Those books are those books are filled with so much ridiculous detail trying to make the world work.
I know.
And I think it's like, I don't like the hope among fans, and myself included, is that he gives all those details because that's building to something. But it could just be him being really nerdy about it. So
I mean, that's kind of why I love them, because he's just like, it's just so obvious he loves that shit, like just as much as like the way he builds the plot of those.
I do like it when they try to make it like somewhat consistent, but it's not the most important thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was trying to think about... I sometimes think about that watching this show where I'm like, what is the science going on here?
And I think, like, for me, fantasy isn't, like... It doesn't need to make the whole, like, debate about emotion versus logic storytelling or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars is very similar in that, where it's, like, the power of the elements or the Force or whatever is really drawn from, like, the emotional power and honesty that the characters have with each other, right? And so, like, with fire, it's easy to use with rage, but it's harder to control like that, You have to be, like... You have to have found your own identity and be able to stand on your own 2 feet to really be a master of firebending. Because if not, like we see at the end of this episode, like when Admiral Xiao is fighting Aang, he can kind of lose control of that very quickly. And that's Admiral Zhao's whole character, is that he doesn't think ahead. He's just like, no, this is... Like, he would fit very well in the current administration in this country, actually.
Yes. Well, it's a sign of, like, that this is the mentality that has been... Like, it's not inherent that, like, if you're a firebender, you're going to be this rage-fueled maniac. But it's, like, been bred into their culture that, like, to rise in it, you have to be that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Their whole honor system and, like, how they serve the Fire Lord has just been all crafted in a way where it's like they only give promotion to people who are mostly unstable and very angry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like, that's like, the elements of, like, fascism, how it, like, destroys itself eventually.
Yeah, it like, basically just like, tires itself out. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but that's fascism for dummies, I guess.
Yeah, I'm being very, very simplistic.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's the classic thing where it's like the stuff that allowed Hitler to rise to power is the exact reason why Nazi Germany failed miserably during World War II. Like, they just fell apart entirely. And that's why Hitler shot himself and bit on a cyanide capsule. Gotta double check.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just in case I miss.
Well, I think it's that fucked up idea of, like, I gotta give Hitler some credit.
Wow.
Yeah, don't take that out of context. But there's always that fear of, like, if you get shot in the head, but, like, it's, like, almost worse to get shot in the head and live in some scenarios with, what can happen if your brain gets messed up. So it's like, well, I'm going to shoot myself, but I'm also going to bite on a cyanide capsule, so if the bullet doesn't kill me, at least the cyanide will. And that's also because by the end of the war, German guns were just so poorly manufactured, there was a good chance that if you shot yourself in the head, you would live. You know what? Here's something. Not to go on a bit of a tangent.
Oh, never on this show.
This is something I'm glad at least hasn't happened to The Last Airbender yet. Where, like, there's always, like, that weird thing where, like, people start liking the aesthetics of, like, the Empire in Star Wars. And there's also, like, this weird, fascination with, like, Nazi uniforms and their symmetry and, like, their architecture and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all a fake, Like, it was all, like, this glitz on the surface that, like, hides the fact that they were really just disorganized fascist losers. And I think people forget that sometimes. Like, we've almost let Hitler gain too much power in our memories as, like, this brilliant dictator, which he really wasn't.
Which is why, honestly, again, not to get into Star Wars, but, like, why the First Order at first was such an exciting prospect. Because they're clearly just, like, a bunch of incompetent idiots that are evil and do have, like, a regime that instilled mass, like, panic and chaos and danger and violence, but, like, it was not built to last, and that was a really compelling thread in those first two movies, at least for me. I know there's debate around that.
Yeah, but it really came together when they revealed that the four-dimensional chess-playing Ghost of the Emperor clone thing was actually pulling the strings the whole time.
You know how to make the clone Emperor work?
Don't do it.
Have it be a ploy by Hux that he cloned the Emperor, but it's just like some mangled, decrepit thing to steal power away from Kylo. If they had done that, that movie would work. Yeah.
If they had made that one change.
I know, it would have made it so much better.
That horrible movie would have worked. that one little change would save that movie.
I think it would have made it better.
No, that's a great idea. But you kind of already had that with Snoke. It's so ridiculous. Whatever. Fanboys are upset, Diego.
No. Well, see, no, because then it would still be Kylo's trying to move away from it, and Hux is the one holding on to the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's the pull. But fuck it, whatever.
It's all bad.
Yeah. But I like the character of Zhang Zhang a lot, and it's, I don't know, I just really like the empathy that the show has towards like the fire-bending people that are not like, or people from the Fire Nation in general that just aren't bad, you know. And like he clearly was like obviously making some mistakes to get there in his life, you know. But it shows that people can change still, you know. It doesn't absolve them of their sins. He clearly is like burdened by what he's done. But I don't know. It's a nice message, at least.
No, it's good. It's an interesting counterpoint to Admiral Xiao,
who burns his own ships at the end, which is hilarious.
Which is a great moment. But it's all, you know, it's a good example of the show. There's always that weird thing where, again, shows like this kind of try to show like, hey, it's not all black and white, but then like that leads to people being like, you can't have, you know, strict opinions on anything. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it would be like, oh, so you're saying it's just a few bad apples in the Fire Nation. Oh. Which is very much like not what this is saying, but you could see someone making that argument, you know?
How are we supposed to defund the Fire Nation? We need the Fire Nation.
Yeah, man. Look, you know how they're always burning everything down? We need that. We need to send the firebenders in to de-escalate the situations by just shooting fire everywhere.
Who are you going to call when you need to put out fires? Non-firebenders?
Hey, maybe we could fund waterbenders by cutting the budget of the firebenders. Shut the fuck up!
No, that's socialism.
That's socialism. Fucking nincompoop.
Anyways, this is a really good episode, and I kind of want to move on because the next episodes are even more interesting.
We did brush over. You mentioned it in one sentence where you summed up the whole episode very quickly, but Aang does burn Katara in one of the more shocking scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh.
It's not like I remembered that happening, but I forgot how harsh it was.
Yeah, and she's crying in it, and so it's easy to see why Aang is like, I'm never doing that again.
Well, she is permanently scarred until she discovers she has the ability to heal through waterbending. Like, if she did not have that ability, she would have those burns for the rest of her life.
Yeah. And I'm actually curious if that was an idea tossed around the writer's room. I would love to talk to people from there. That's an
idea. It would be kind of insanely dark to throw that in at the end of the first season.
Oh, totally, yeah. And I'm not even saying I wanted that for sure. I'm just curious if that was like, hey, should we do that, you know?
Because we already got with Zuko with his scar.
Oh, yeah.
Put on him by his own fucking father.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty dark.
Pretty not great. That's a not great thing.
Yeah,
happen.
No, it's heavy. This is a heavy show at times.
It can get heavy, yeah.
Anything else in this
Northern
episode?
Air Temple.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, Northern Air Temple, which involves further war crimes.
Yeah, but guess what? Odo's back.
Yay!
He voices the guy who's living in the Northern Air Temple now. This is a much better episode for his talents than The Great Divide, I will say that.
I liked him in The Great Divide. He's not what
I did too, but this gets, you know, this character actually has an arc.
Yeah. And
pretty dark one too, again. It gets like weird.
Yeah, I mean on the discussion of war crimes and such, it shows that I think Hayao Miyazaki did a movie about this, right? The Wind Rises. Kind of something similar? Am I mistaken?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, it since it's Miyazaki, it's a little more understated.
Oh, yeah, of course.
To the point where there were a lot of think pieces when that movie came out, being like, is Hayao Miyazaki saying he was okay with Japanese war crimes? And it's like, that's not at all what that movie was.
Yeah.
There's another definite Miyazaki homage coming later in this episode that we'll talk about.
I actually don't know which one you're talking about, so I'm interested.
Well, we'll get to it.
Okay. But yeah, this is about an inventor who has taken residence up in the Northern Air Temple, much to Aang's chagrin, because a lot of the technology and like the mechanisms have kind of ruined the temple forever. And
they're blowing shit up. It's pretty blunt too.
Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty messed up. And but we see that he's used a lot of his inventions to help his son, who is paraplegic and has a wheelchair, which I guess was not common in this world at the time. I don't know if you felt that, but I got the implication that like, oh, what's a wheelchair from these people?
Well, he's got a flying wheelchair.
Well, he's also it also flies, which is cool.
That's definitely a step up. But I don't know. I mean, possibly that feels like something this world could have figured out. Wheelchairs. Maybe I'm stretching it, but I feel like that's something they could figure out. You don't need to be a nomadic inventor to figure that one out.
Yeah, I guess so.
But his son was injured. What was the story behind his son getting injured? I totally forgot.
I don't remember either.
Oh my god!
I
know that was important to the story. We both forgot it.
Well, he made the wheelchair so his son could fly, so he wouldn't need his legs to do that, and so he'd be equal in the sky.
Yeah, but I know his son was explicitly injured, and that's why he became handicapped.
Was it a Fire Nation
attack?
He
mentions his son became... His home was destroyed by a flood when he was an infant. It killed his mother and paralyzed him.
Mm. Yeah, it's a nice reason for why he's doing what he's doing. And the son and Aang get really close, and he wants to show Aang that like there's still a section of the temple that hasn't been like desecrated by their mechanical foundations, and it's really nice and sweet. And then Aang's like, no, I don't want to see it because it should be left alone. And then when he changes his tune to decide he does want to see it after all, you know, it's got a bunch of Fire Nation stuff in it, and you find out that the inventor has been giving materials and technology to the Fire Nation so he could keep his son safe. And that's a pretty heavy message about...
Not a great thing to find out.
No. The dangers of, like, who's funding your technology, even if it is for the betterment of the world. It's not going to be for the betterment of the world if you give, like, war criminals Zeppelins. I don't know. It's pretty... This one's actually kind of heavy.
I mean, this season gets really heavy in, like, the last 5 episodes. Again, for, like, a kid's show. Like, I wouldn't, like, say, you know, this isn't fucking Come and See or anything, but...
Yeah. Oh, God, no.
For a kid's show, it's like, you know, you introduce these concepts at a young age. A lot going on here.
And we get a fun little battle at the end of this episode, too. It's kind of a warm-up for what comes at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But it's cool, and you get to see these inventions, and I really like the furthering of Sokka as, like, a strategic mind, even though he is also, like, an idiot when it comes to social skills. Mm-hmm. And he's basically just, like, becomes buddy-buddy with the inventor, and they're totally in tune with one another. And I really love that, because, like, a lesser show would just make Sokka comic relief. Yeah. But he's got so much more going on as a character that I really love. And Apparently, from a lot of people I know that have been watching it for the first time, Sokka is their favorite character, like, on average. Maybe, like, one or two people have not said that to me.
That's interesting. I like Sokka, but it was never one of my favorites.
It's kind of like picking your favorite children, It's like, you're not supposed to have them, but also Zuko. So...
Yeah. I think my favorite character has yet to show up.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll get to that. There's a fun scene where Katara gets to fly, though. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And then she gets stuck up there, and she's like, how do I come down? And then she swallows a bug.
Yeah, and they just stare at her while she's like, hey, I don't know how to land. And then...
And then they have a conversation that moves them into the next scene.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, that's pretty
a little
amazing.
heavy to be like, just give it a whirl. Just fly. We're at the Northern Air Temple, which is like on top of a fucking mountain or some shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Himalayas, but go ahead, it's fine. You'll land eventually.
Yeah. If you fuck up, you're just gonna plummet to your death. You either have a fun time flying or plummet to your death.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah. That's why I've never been interested in flying. Like airplanes or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, you can fly, which seems fun, but if you fuck up, you're dead.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think I've talked about it before, but like if I had a superpower, I would want flight. Because then I at least know, like, oh, I'm getting tired, I better land. Mm-hmm. I can't do that with the plane unless I'm looking at, like, the engine stuff. You have to read so many of those little dials and monitors to be able to make sure, okay, everything's perfect. Everything has to be perfect at all times for this to work. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just like that thing. I've driven a lot in my life where I've made like split-second mistakes and fucked up, and like in those instances, it's like, oh, sometimes like I end up like I hit a curb or something, Like the majority of the time, that doesn't add up to much. It can in extreme situations, but most of the time it doesn't. But in an airplane, every time it adds up to death.
One of these gliders would be kind of fun, though. I
guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. This seems like the opposite idea of fun.
No, I love being up in planes is the thing. I just don't want to fly them.
You love being up in planes?
Yeah, it's so relaxing to me. I don't know why. But here's the thing.
How?
Takeoff and landing, I have like the worst panic attacks of my life. But once everything's like equalized, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
I get nervous when you're taking off. And then I never lose it. And it's just like, because like you, for some reason in my head, I'm always like, well, once we take off, everything will be all right. And then it's like, no, you're still in a fucking capsule that's like shooting at hundreds of miles per hour. That's just going up and up and up. And it's like one thing goes wrong, the whole fucking everyone's dead. Yeah, no, I don't like it.
Oh no, I love it. I love it.
I do not. There's nothing relaxing about air travel.
Maybe the drinks.
Did I tell you my house had a hot air balloon hit it once?
What? That's actually very relevant to this episode, so please continue.
I was very young. I think I was like 5 years old. And I was playing in my yard. And I'm just like hanging out. And I hear like a noise behind me, but I don't think too much of it. And I look up, and there's a hot air balloon coming straight at my house. And the basket hits the roof of my house. And then they keep flying and they crash at like a football field that was like a block away.
Huh.
Because we used to have a thing in my area called Balloon Fest. Where it was just
no, I think I know what it's about.
Tons of hot air balloons. That was it. And because Syracuse is a fucking pit where nothing happens, this was like one of the bigger events of the year.
sorry. It's just so funny to me.
Yeah, it was the dumbest.
Because, like, in LA, they use every opportunity to be like, yeah, let's go! You know? So, like, and then the other side of the country, we have balloons.
Yeah, we have Balloon Fest, and every year I'd get tricked into going. And I realized I could have just stayed home because I could see most of the balloons from my house. Like, I really didn't need to leave. Like, it would honestly be kind of cool that one night where you could just see, like, the dozens of hot air balloons in the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's not interesting going there and watching them take off. Because you look at these people and you're like, I don't trust any of these people. Flying hot air balloons. And in the one year, like, a bunch of them crashed. That was, like, a thing that happened.
Oh, God.
One year where it was, like a bunch crashed. And I think, like, only, like, a few died, but, like, a lot of people were injured.
Oh, okay. Well, if only a few died then.
In fact, I think the people that hit my house and then crashed, I think one of them, like, broke an arm or something. Like, they came down way too quick.
You know, I've never broken a bone in my body.
Same.
Yeah, feels good.
And I fell down the stairs last week.
So what was the Miyazaki reference you wanted to point out in this episode?
That's not until... I said it comes later in... I meant the episode we're recording.
Oh, okay.
So
then I know what it is now.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, oh, maybe Diego hasn't seen that one.
No, Princess Mononoke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, no, another great episode.
Fire Nation gets the war balloon now.
Yep. Insanely dark ending. Like I don't know if I talked about it on the show already, but my mom's starting to make her way through this for the first time, and then she called me to ask me if anything happens to Appa, because then she'd stop watching, because she loves Appa, and then 2, because she was like really disturbed by the ending to the Fire Nation getting the balloon, because like the implications of that we actually end up seeing in the show too, which is just heavy. This is all heavy shit right now. I hope you gave her a bit of a heads up. I was like, Appa's okay. He makes it through. Yeah, you maybe give her a little more than that. No, I got another phone call later, but we'll get to that.
All right.
So episode.
Though I gotta say, nothing like this series gets dark, and it's kind of like watching it now. It's like surprising, but nothing really gets me like upset, anxious in the show until Legend of Korra.
Oh, okay.
I want to say like every season of Legend of Korra has at least 1 or 2 moments that like genuinely upset me.
And then someone's out there at the keyboard. Yeah, because it's not as good as the last Airbender. I know there's going to be some fucker out there. That's why.
Although there's one episode that we won't hit, I think, until season 3. I could be wrong. That is notorious for its darkness.
Oh,
would probably upset me another time around.
Oh. So yeah, that's another solid episode, and now we're on the last stretch of season 1. Book 1, Water, and the gang finally reaches the North Pole in the Waterbending Master.
And they meet Santa Claus.
What?
Wouldn't that be... They just fuck it all up.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Just a bunch of elves waterbending.
Do you remember... Santa shows up in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
Oh, yeah.
And he gives them weapons?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I should revisit that movie.
Sure.
Maybe not. Okay.
Those are, like, the first ones, I mean, the books more. The first book's fine, but, like, they really, really lay into the Christian shit later.
Oh, I recall.
Yeah. And then they just gave up trying to make those movies, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
At some point, they must have had some backlash because they replaced Eddie Izzard with Simon Pegg in one of them.
Oh, that's right, huh?
Yeah, I bet you there was a conservative backlash to that maybe happened.
That's too
Can't
bad.
have Eddie Izzard on a Christian thing.
Eddie Izzard's so fucking awesome.
Eddie Izzard's great.
Yeah.
Although, I'm always nervous now, because the one thing that the Tumblr era really started for me was that it revealed that all your British favorites are, like, either racist or transphobic.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
You know,
so Eddie, I like Eddie Izzard the actor. There you go. I don't know him from Adam.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Eddie Izzard, but it's always Eddie Izzard's always great when he pops up in something.
Yeah. Remember he was just like a guest star in Hannibal, like regularly for the first 2 seasons?
Yeah, he was so great. And they kept killing him and then finding excuses to bring him back.
Yeah, he was like their Kenny.
I know, a little bit. Him and Chilton, where Chilton dies like twice.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
And they still bring him back. Which, that was some of the great stuff about that show.
Yeah. They basically bend over backwards to bring people back from the dead. And then, like, by the end of the show, Chilton's just, like, a charred, like, chest.
Do you remember when Eddie Izzard did a cover of Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite in Across the Universe?
No, but I don't really remember that movie, but I've been meaning to revisit it.
That scene is something. It's just Eddie Izzard comes, like, bumbling into the film and sings the song, and it's like, all right. It's got the blue people.
Okay, so the waterbending master. Aang, Sokka, and Katara
not voiced by Eddie Izzard.
Not voiced by Eddie Izzard.
He should have done a voice on this show.
Ideally, in the 3rd Avatar series, he does a voice somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great if they ever get around to doing another one.
It's right there. Just have Earth be the modern day one, then Fire be the future. Blade Runner style cyberpunk. It's right there. Whatever.
Now, I think they should. I don't know what they should do. I think like they got to do something in between. But when they get back to Fire, I think they should go to space.
Yeah, cyberpunk.
No, not cyberpunk. Like retro rocket punk, you know?
Oh, okay.
Like the 1950s idea of what space travel was going to look like.
Oh, that would be kind of cool.
I would like to see something like that.
Okay.
Because it is actually, when I think about it, the leap between this and then they immediately go into steampunk in the next one is a pretty big leap.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, but I'm cool with it.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with it too.
Also, I just found out they are releasing prequel books about Avatar Kyoshi.
Yeah, and I've heard they're actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I might have to check those out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't read Star Wars books anymore, so...
Yeah, I think we talked about that, but like the extended universe stuff, I'm cool to hear if it's good, but like I won't go out of my way anymore to pick up anything like that.
Oh my god.
What?
I wanted to check who did voices on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I totally missed this. I don't know how I didn't realize. Chief Arnook is voiced by John Polito. John Polito. The late, great John Polito.
What?
Do you know who John Polito is?
I don't know who John Polito is.
Have you seen Miller's Crossing?
Yeah.
Fucking Johnny Casper. He's ethics.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
Like now
I feel
question. Bad. He slaps his kid in one scene. Always put one in the brain.
Oh, fuck, hang on. Now I got Big Lebowski.
Yeah, he's DeVito in Big Lebowski. I'm a brother Seamus. He pops up. He's in the Rocketeer.
Is he in the Rocketeer?
Yeah, we had this discussion because you confused him with Paul Sorvino.
Fuck, that's right.
But he's the guy. He gets killed in the Rocketeer.
Oh, fuck.
He's the guy who's like, don't worry, folks, everything's under control.
I gotta go watch The Rocketeer. That's a great movie.
It's on like the first season of Homicide: Life on the Street.
Really?
Yeah. And then he, like, left the show. It's, like, one of the worst things ever to happen in television. I love Homicide. But, I think his character, he left the show after, like, season 1 or 2. So they wrote that his character committed suicide.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. Which is, like, that's a bit of a stretch.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
And then it's like, but then they get, like, a whole episode out of, like, oh, we didn't realize he was that depressed. It's like, well, all right, that's a way to do it, I guess. John Polito's great. I'm sorry.
He is great. But I had never even considered that. Like,
I just had not put together that it was John Polito doing the voice.
Also in Gangster Squad, which no one really likes or remembers.
No one remembers Gangster Squad. And no one should, frankly.
No, it's not good. Yeah.
That's a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's only known for, like, one thing. But who makes a movie called Gangster Squad?
Director of Venom.
I think they tried to give that movie to Zack Snyder at one point.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
Like, there was a thing where, Warner Bros. Like, bought the rights to the book or something, and they had a script, and they, like, offered it to, like, every big director they had. And they all said no.
Anyways, Chief Arnook.
Yeah, sorry for getting distracted on the John Polito stuff.
No, it's okay. I get it.
But they end up at the North Pole. They're finally at the Northern Water Tribe.
And then Sokka immediately falls head over heels for Princess Yue, the daughter of Chief Arnook and John Polito.
Of Chief Arnook and John Polito. And, I mean, that's not wrong. John Polito was gay.
You know?
It's not even a joke. Like, so,
and
could have happened.
They're both kind of celebrated and welcomed as heroes when they get there, and it's like a great affair. But then it's also like, oh, here's the waterbending master that's going to teach Aang. Also, we don't teach women things here, only how to heal.
Yeah.
And then it's like, whoa. And so Katara gets the big spotlight in this episode too, because she's been working just as hard as Aang, and in some ways even harder because she discovered Aang in the ice. She's the reason this story has a narrative, and she's told no because that's not how we do things. And part of like the great resilience of the character and why she's endured with a lot of fandoms, I think, is because she's like, no, this is wrong. Let's do something about this.
There's a great moment in the end where when she's finally fed up with the Watermaster's bullshit, and she's like, I'm gonna fight him, and I can't remember who says it, but like one of them goes like, Katara, you're gonna lose, and she's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still just gonna fucking try to hit this guy. Which is great.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like, an argument to be made about like how she has to fight to prove herself is not like the best thing ever, but it's her fighting against the traditions and like that institution itself that make it so great.
What's great about it is it's not a moment where it's like, oh, she thinks she can actually take this guy and she's going to be humiliated or something. Mm-hmm. Like, she explicitly says, I'm not even going to try to win.
Yeah, she just wants to I'm just gonna show them and be mad.
Like, I just want to hit the guy and show him I can do it. And that's what's great about it. But I have some problems with this episode.
Oh no, okay.
Not a ton, but for one, I like whenever I see something like this now, it's one of those things where, like, if this episode aired today, it would be like there'd be like 80 outrage merchants on YouTube like complaining about it and being like, it's virtue signaling, woke bullshit. And then they'll point out that, like, the ratings at the end of the season aren't as high as they were at the start, which is, like, what happens to every single television show that's ever been on the air.
Like, every once in a while, some shows get bigger in their season finale, but, yeah, that especially nowadays when shows don't even break, like, 5 million viewers on average.
get woke, go broke.
Yeah.
And that's their mantra.
It's so fucking stupid.
I know, it's awful. But the problem I have with this is that you get this guy, and it's also like this first moment where you realize that like gender actually is a thing. Like there really are gender roles in this world. Which has kind of like been danced around a little bit as the series has progressed.
Mm-hmm.
Like when all the members of the Water Tribe go off to war, they make it pretty clear that mostly the men went off to war. It's not like an underlined thing, but that's something that happens. We find out that there's an arranged marriage going on at the Northern Water Tribe, so this is something where it's like, all right, so gender constructs are kind of an engraved thing in the culture. But then at the end of it, it's revealed that the reason Paku, the waterbending master, doesn't like women is because he was rejected by Katara's grandmother.
Is that the only reason, though? Like,
I don't know. It's weird because that's the thing. It, like, turns around and suddenly it's like, okay, everyone, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like that fake out ending where like she's running up and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "You're late." Ha ha.
Yeah.
You know, like suddenly he's totally cool with it. Like,
no, it is a little convenient for sure. It's a little too tied up with a bow, maybe, for something as complex as that.
In a show that's done a lot better with stuff like that up to this point, like that kind of feels a little cheaper.
I honestly wouldn't say cheaper. I would definitely concede to more convenient.
Well, because once they point out that like Princess Yue has an arranged marriage lined up, it's like that's suddenly like that brings in all sorts of baggage with it. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, it's like marriage was like an economic idea for a long time. And it's a system that was basically designed to like subjugate women, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's when women basically became a commodity for, you know, wealth being exchanged between families, and that's what enforces a lot of the gender roles we have today. So when you throw that in there, it's like, all right, this is something that's been going on for a long time, you know, which I'm fine with. Like, if you want to throw that in there and be like, look, it's the Northern Water Tribe has some older ideas for whatever reason. The Earth Kingdom's more progressive. The Water Tribe's different. Like, I'm totally cool with that. It's even a little weird when you look at what we get to see of the Air Nations and the Air Temples. Those seem to be exclusively male in the flashbacks.
In the flashbacks, yes, but one of the previous air nomads was also an avatar, and she was a woman.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's in terms of like the actual presentation of the show, like not even represent. Like I'm saying, like what the show shows us regularly. You're right; it is exclusively male, and I think that was just kind of like a mistake on their part. Honestly,
yeah, it's a mistake,
yeah.
Or it's like, you know, sometimes it's like. It's, you know, it's bullshit, but it's like, oh, well, we don't want to have to draw all these character designs for, like, what women look like in the Air Nation, which is kind of, you know, I can't imagine that costs too much.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's a thing, and
it's an error on their part for sure. I'm not even defending them for that. I definitely agree that they could have added some more stuff there for, like. I
just think it's somewhere it's like, all right, so you set up that this is like this is like an old tradition. These constructs are older and have just become integrated into the society. And then suddenly this one guy, when he realizes that this girl is the granddaughter of his ex-fiancé, suddenly is like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. Like, because in that system, it's like, you know, we meet, I don't remember the woman's name, but Katara is sent off to work with the other women who are doing more of like the water healing and more like menial tasks with water bending, whereas the men are like trained to be like, you know, fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And in a system like that, you know, even that woman would probably defend her place in society if that's what gives her power, you know.
Yeah.
And again, this is a children's show. I'm not asking it to get that deep. But it's these two things next to each other that make it a little weird.
No, for sure. And here's my thesis on this that I've had since I first watched this show. You cut out the episode of the fortune teller, add another episode of them at the Northern Water Tribe. Not just to let those ideas settle a little better, right, and explore more of that, but because there is so much of the culture there that I think could have been explored with more time. Like I like what we have here a lot, and especially the next episodes, which we'll get into. But there's so much, like, it's a total counterpoint to where the characters have been all season, where they're just constantly on the road, and it's like, well, now they're in one place. Like, okay, I think it would have been fun to explore, like, okay, what does that mean for them now? Like, do we just, like, sit here now until we're ready to go back out there? Like, is that going to be kind of boring? And eventually, I won't spoil it for people that have not gotten this far in the show, something like that does happen, and I really like that. I would have liked to have seen that a little bit more here, and to also show that idea you brought up about, like, you know, there's still power in the other water-bending tasks and forms, and, like, you can still be empowered by whatever you do as long as, you know, it's on your own terms. There's probably a way to, like, marry the healing and the water battling, you know? Like, marry those two concepts into, like, a larger narrative.
I'm just like, I think I'm kind of comparing, like, all the other stuff that's tried to deal with gender to the Kyoshi Warriors episode.
Oh, yeah, which is, like, perfect.
It's just, like, the fourth episode, and it just goes places that, like, shows even today don't really go. I mean, that's literally an episode where, like, Sokka wears, like, basically women's clothing in a way that's not, like, comedic, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you know, that can be powerful, too, in a way. Because it's like, there's so many jokes where it's like, oh, there's a man in a dress. Like, what type of person would humiliate themselves by wearing a dress? And it's like it's all like this, that like, weird undercurrent of, like, sexism. Where it's like, we belittle women for wearing clothes that then we expect them to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could have done more, like you're saying.
Just one more episode. That's
like,
all it needed, I think.
It always reminds me of that scene in Blazing Saddles, where
the white woman at?
No, not that.
Sorry.
I literally can't quote anything from Blazing Saddles, but there's that scene in the end where they're like, we have to build the fake town. And so they're like, well, how are we going to do it? We don't have enough people. And it's like, well, we'll do it with all the black people and the Chinese workers and all that stuff. And they're like, nope, we're not going to do it. Like, we're not going to let them work. I can't quote what they said.
Yeah.
But they're like, we're not going to do it. And then they're like, nope, you either do it or we lose. And then the guy's like, oh, shit. Everybody, and they all just start hugging. Like, they go from being at complete odds, then it's like, hey! Like, which is like a parody of that type of story. Where it's like that's like the joke that's going on there.
Yeah.
But here it's played like, kind of like, oh, that's how you defeat sexism.
Yeah, no. Whereas, like, I would say, like, Kyoshi Warriors, like, I wouldn't actually say, like, it's a manifesto of how to do those stories or anything like that, but my God, it, like, even now, how much did that single episode give us to talk about versus this where it's like, yeah, and then everything was okay with them.
Yeah. Well, it's also like this thing where what's crazy about the Kyoshi Warriors is that feels like an episode that would come in, like, the third season after we've gone through, like, the waterbending episode, the waterbending master episode, and the fortune teller episode where we both complained about some of the gender politics of those episodes. But you can see that they're, like, trying to work it out, and that they would eventually come up with an episode like the Kyoshi Warriors.
And they already did it!
Like, yeah, but it's literally the fourth episode. So, it's a great show, though.
Yeah. Great. The best show. But, yeah. Yes.
Oh, we totally brushed over Zuko's plot.
Oh yeah, no. I was just waiting to finish up the stuff with the Northern Water Tribe.
I was about to jump ahead like an idiot.
Oh no.
But...
Okay, so the Zuko stuff here. Zuko's entire crew and ship, well, not ship, and is basically reprimanded into Admiral Xiao's fleet because he is planning for an assault on the Northern Water Tribe, and it's basically going to take like the largest like navy the world has ever seen in this universe, right?
Yeah.
And then Admiral Xiao is like, fuck this guy, I need his uncle to help like me plan the attack and stuff like that. So I'm going to hire those pirates to assassinate him. Assassinate a 16-year-old boy.
Which I said, like I mentioned, I remembered this plot. I forgot the pirates did it.
Yeah.
When those pirates showed up, I was like, they don't come back again, right? And then you're like, oh, they come back. And I was kind of expecting them to show up much later. I forgot they were the ones that carried out the assassination plot.
Mm-hmm. And then I don't know if I like it or dislike it. I don't think it's that big of an issue either way. But in the explosion scene, you can see Zuko yell and fly out of the window and land in the water. I kind of would have liked it, I think, if there just was no hint of it. But also, like, you kind of know that's not how Zuko's story is going to end. It doesn't mean it's a bad, like, moment or anything like that. I don't know. One of those things I have, like, weird feelings about. Not in a negative, positive way.
If you're right about our version of the season where they cut the fortune teller episode and have one more episode in the Northern Water Tribe, I feel like they could have done something where we have an episode where we do treat Zuko as being dead.
Yeah.
Like, you could have had that, but here it's like you kind of have to reveal as quickly as possible that, no, he lived.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would, it would get confusing with the amount of stuff that goes on in the final two episodes.
Yeah, a lot, actually. It's kind of amazing how much they pack into, like, 40 minutes.
Yeah. Let's talk about a season final.
A season final?
The last two episodes.
Yes, season finale.
What, I can't say final?
I don't think it matters. I haven't heard someone say that before.
All right.
Okay. See, on the season final of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 1, Water, The Siege of the North, Part 1 and Part 2, it's kind of like the traditional fantasy adventure thing where it's like a Helm's Deep style showdown. And I don't mean that as a negative at all because, like, even on the, like, simplest terms of explaining this episode, I think it just kicks ass.
Yeah. Well, it reminded me of three things. Helm's Deep, it did remind me of, but you're absolutely right in that comparison. But it reminded me of the Battle of Hoth because it was snow related.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It also kind of reminded me of the Death Star battle because it's like where all these storylines are just converging in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's the big turning point where it's like, and it not to, I mean, we're not, who gives a shit. It ends triumphantly, basically. But then the other thing it reminded me of was the Mortal Engines, which has a very similar climax.
I forgot you just watched that.
I know, it's
Welcome to the Mortal Engines hive.
Yeah, the 5 people.
Yeah. I like that movie.
I'm going to have to... I'll never get sequels, so I guess I have to go read those books.
Yeah, I know, right? I liked it.
The other thing now is that I did not realize how many Artemis Fowl fans are out there.
Oh, I did. I'm not one of them. I never read those books, but I definitely... I knew they were waiting to strike.
Yeah, because it's like people I know, and they've never brought up that they like it at all, and it was just like for weeks they were just upset, understandably. That's a shame.
Yeah.
So,
but
whatever happened to Aragon?
Just crickets. I think even like the book started like dropping off at some point.
Well, that's that crazy story where the person who wrote it was like 18 years old or whatever.
Yeah. Like
he wrote it real young, and when you consider that, it's not, it's a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if that dude like planned properly, he might not ever have to work again.
Well, what he did was he went, what if I did Star Wars but with dragons?
Yeah, I know, and that's not a bad idea. I'm not even like...
Yeah, well, it's also like, if you're going to copy something, might as well.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like when everyone tried to do Dark Knight again. It's like, yeah, I get why you tried it.
Well, what's crazy is that so many people copied Dark Knight, and like the 3 examples I can think of all worked. So
Star Trek Into Darkness?
Oh no, never mind.
Yeah.
I forgot that one.
Yeah. Anyways. So yeah, this is the big battle finale where the stakes are raised, everyone's involved. There's heart. You said this ends triumphantly, and it does, but it also has like a kind of
at what a cost.
Yeah, it hits you with that emotional stuff really, really hard.
Strong men also cry. You got me thinking of John Polito's got me thinking of the Big Lebowski. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, hey, Big Lebowski's the shit, so I don't blame you.
Yeah. The Fire Nation invades. We didn't really talk about Princess Yue that much.
No, we could talk about her right now, though.
Yeah.
I actually like this character a lot. I don't know what the read is on her other than the memes about the moon spirit, because again, we're assuming you've seen this, so we do lose Princess Yue in this episode. Only
one of the darkest things that happened in the show is like a goofy meme.
Yeah. But it's like, I think there's a point to be made about how someone could argue that Princess Yue basically just exists to become like a tragic figure. But
she's introduced a little late in the game.
Yeah, that one more episode I think just would have helped a little bit more. But I think in terms of like the show's mythology, I think it still works. It's kind of like, I know you don't like this movie, but like Pirates of the Caribbean 3 ends like triumphantly as well, but also with a tragedy that Will and oh my god, I can't remember her name. Keira Knightley's character.
Elizabeth Swann?
Thank you. Will and Elizabeth Swann.
I hate those movies, and I know that.
Will and Elizabeth Swann end up being like a grand pirate fable.
Yeah,
at the end of that.
Sure. Here's something. I'm more invested in Princess Yue than I am in fucking Will Turner, or whatever the fuck his name was. And they had 3 2.5-hour plus movies to set that tool bag up.
I am not, but I like Princess Yue as a character, and I
like Elizabeth Swann. I want to make that clear, though.
Elizabeth Swann's a great character, yeah.
She should have been the main character of those fucking movies.
Rewatch the sequels. She kind of is.
She kind of is if you think about it from this angle.
From my point of view, the Matt is evil.
Yeah, fuck you. Fuck all that bullshit.
No, but I actually like the character
and
a
his
lot.
Fucking nonsense.
I like the character Princess Yue a lot. And
Tool.
Like romances in anything are like difficult to pull off.
Well, here's something I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to jump the gun too much, but we are going to talk about the M. Night Shyamalan adaptation of this at some point, which he did the first season in one movie, which before I rewatched this, I thought what would have been impossible to really do. Like, you just can't fit all of the story into that movie,
mm-hmm.
which is true, but in retrospect, you could have restructured this season to have a narrative arc that follows the movie. And one of the biggest fumbling blocks of a movie that is full of fumbling blocks is that they didn't think to introduce Princess Yue earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which should have been the one big change they did. She should have shown up like halfway through.
Yeah.
Because even on the show, we're talking about how we wish we had more with her on the show. We still get more of her here than we do in that movie.
Just kind of absurd.
Well, yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like, they really should have introduced her slightly earlier in that movie. And they maybe in the show as well.
Yeah. Again, that one extra episode, just something, man.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have solved all the problems, but it would have helped a little bit.
For what it is, I really like it. This is actually... I think this climax is a really fantastic job of having, like, all the moving pieces of each character. Because you got, like... I don't know if Katara doesn't have a ton to do in this final episode.
Yeah, not as much.
In terms of an emotional arc, she's basically just there to keep Aang safe.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's something, but Sokka gets something. We have Zuko's going on his whole plot. We got Uncle Iroh and Admiral Xiao kind of like they're quote-unquote working together, but they're both at odds with each other. You have the actual battle that's going on. There's a lot of balls juggling in the air here. And what you find out is that Xiao's plan is that he's going to destroy the moon. Which, in retrospect, is like, I just forgot that. That's kind of nuts.
Again, this is why he would fit in with the current administration.
Yeah.
Like, goes on live television. I think it's time for America to defeat the moon.
Well, isn't that a Mr. Show sketch?
Oh, yeah.
Where they're like, we're going to blow up the moon.
Yeah, that's just Admiral Xiao.
Like, they're like, well, we played golf on the moon. We did all this sort of stuff. Why don't we blow up the moon?
Which I love that we get more insight into Iroh just being far more reluctant to be part of, like, the onslaught of the Fire Nation. Right? Yeah. Like, he's really just there to help Zuko. He's not invested in winning the battle. But he's also, like, telling him immediately, like, yo, don't fuck with that. That's not what anything, like, is about here. Like, you cannot mess with the natural order of things.
Well, he has that great speech where I forget what he says, but he's basically like, this is not what Uncle Iroh says, but he's like, because the fish are the physical embodiment of the moon spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Uncle Iroh's basically like, I will fuck you up if you fuck with those fish. He says something more poetic than that.
But that is basically what he says, yeah.
Yeah. And then he does fuck with the fish, and Uncle Iroh, like, kicks, like, a dozen dudes' asses.
Yeah, like, it happens way faster than I remember it happening. But it's also like, oh, okay, this is another weird pull. It reminded me of the Wild Bunch. Where it's, where it's like in the beginning where, like, you don't realize how fast stuff is happening until it's over.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Uncle Iroh and the Wild Bunch.
Here's something I genuinely don't remember, and I feel like an idiot for not remembering it. But they talk about Uncle Iroh's experience in the spirit realm in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see that on the show?
No.
We don't. All right.
We do not. It's some of the stuff either they couldn't fit in or just left to...
That's fine, because they talk about... Because that's why he's able to sense that Yue was touched by the moon spirit as a child.
I thought it was the hair.
Well, yeah, but they say he's got that connection. Because he also, earlier in that episode, he's the only one that's able to see the dragon.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought it was more something like that.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think both reads are viable, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is where Uncle Iroh starts shooting into, like, the upper echelons of, like, great characters.
Yeah, it's getting better. Aang goes into the Avatar state and turns into, like, a giant ocean spirit.
Oh, we got to talk about his adventure into the spirit world, because when it's clear that the Water Nation can't hold back this level of, like, an assault on them. They could keep fighting, but they know that they're going to lose, and they don't know how to do it. And Aang can't take out every Fire Nation ship, although he mentions he took out, like, a dozen, which I'm just like, oh, he just tosses that out. Like, I'm flashing back to, like, all those times he tried to impress Katara, right? And it's like, oh, like, when he doesn't care about it, he's like, yeah, I just took out a dozen Fire Navy ships. It's no big deal.
Even that's not enough. Even that's like he realizes in that moment he can't do it.
Yeah. And so then he decides, or him, Yue, and Katara decide to help him venture into the spirit world to talk to the spirits, and hopefully they'll have an answer to defeat the Fire Nation. Then he jokes about the spirits unleashing some crazy spirit to attack the Fire Nation. Everyone's like, that's ridiculous. And then that happens.
We also meet the Face Stealer.
Ko, the Face Stealer. The most horrifying creation this show, any version of Avatar has ever concocted. Like, that's a genuinely frightening character.
Yeah, that was upsetting thing to see.
And the implication that it's still doing it is a little scary. And I guess this is consider this a spoiler if you want or don't. I don't know. Ko never returns after this, and I've always thought that he should, because
no, it's creepier that he doesn't.
Oh, you're glad?
Yeah, well, no. First of all, like, I don't want to ever see him again.
Oh, okay.
It's upsetting, but he has that ominous thing where he's like, "We'll meet again," but he's saying it he's not saying it to Aang. He's saying it to the Avatar, and it's just that creepy thing of like, he could go like 500 years, but he's still going to have to face the Face Stealer again at some point.
Yeah, I know. That's why I would have liked to have seen him in Korra.
I don't know. I'm cool with just the ominous feeling that he's always out there.
I mean, maybe it's for the best, because it is a genuinely frightening creation.
I mean, the little bit of information we get about the other times the Avatar has encountered him is enough, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's like, one of your previous lives tried to slay me because I might have taken someone's face that they loved or something like that. And it's like, what? Like, there's enough going on in the real world that we do not need to introduce this level of, like, nightmare fuel. But the show does anyways. And we get to see, of course, Avatar Roku again. And, I forget the wood spirit's name. But
oh yes,
I like it. The little panda bear. Yeah. It's cute.
But Aang does turn into a giant spirit monster
and defeats the Fire Nation, and it's like
and that was the scene I was referencing to Princess Mononoke.
Oh yeah, it's straight up that, like the same spirit, like color palette and like texture on the creature too.
Oh, the forest spirit only does that because it loses its head, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. Watch Princess Mononoke, everyone.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah, maybe my favorite of Miyazaki's, but it's also the first one, so I have that bias. It's the first one I saw. So.
I wouldn't go that far with that one, but because Spirited Away is like a perfect movie.
Yeah, he has like at least 5 perfect movies. So.
Yeah, but like Spirited Away, when I say perfect movie, it's not like, you know, hyperbolic. It's like one where I could see that being said as like the greatest film of all time.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's how good Spirited Away is.
I respect that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aang kicks the Fire Nation's butt, but there's something like deeply sad about it, because Aang is not a violent character.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's literally the avatar for the spirits lashing out.
It's not a cool moment. It's not like a fun moment. It's actually very disturbing.
Yeah.
And it's just like Fire Nation people getting wiped out, and Admiral Xiao dies.
Yeah, it's totally like it reminds me of like Raiders, you know?
Yeah.
It's a big like.
It is very similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the power that he tried to defeat and control is the thing that destroys him.
I almost wonder though, because Xiao dies. The princess turns. It's like they say explicitly that she dies, and then becomes the moon spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like it's not like she just ascends. She does in fact die.
Yeah.
And a character we kind of brushed over, but her fiance from the arranged marriage. I think he falls to his death.
I think he also does die, yeah. We brushed over him because, again, like the weird gender politics, or not even weird, just like reductive gender politics of those other episodes we talked about are kind of at play with him too. But what I actually liked about him is that he kind of explicitly says, like, he's marrying her because it'll help him get a better position.
in the tribe.
Yeah, so like it's more, it's clearly more aware of it here. You know, it's not just a thing. And then how immediately he's him and Sokka get into like that like masculine like machismo fight with each other because you know,
which isn't a great way to deal with it.
It's not, but I do like that even
a good way.
Yue's dad is like, no, I need you here to protect my daughter.
Mm-hmm. And a good way to deal with it is that guy literally just dies in the dumbest way possible.
Oh yeah, no, that's terrific.
And it has no effect on any of the preceding action.
Yeah, like that's probably what saves it.
But I almost wonder if they got some pushback for this episode. You know, I don't know much out there, but it's because there's another episode, without spoiling things for you who haven't gotten there, there's another episode where someone dies, and it's famous for how, because of the way it was told, no one was really sure if the character died. And they actually had to like do like work later to be like, no, that person died. Whereas here it's like much more explicit.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wonders if maybe they got some pushback for how dark these few episodes got.
Maybe, yeah. As the Yue death really stuck with me when I first saw it too, because like, oh shit, like that's it. Like the character is gone now, and I just assumed like that would not be the case.
And she doesn't come back really in any capacity.
Oh no, but she's in every episode after this.
I know, because the moon's in every episode. Yeah. How sad.
No, it's that's a joke online, but I'm like, that's sad. Like,
yeah, it is sad. Like, I think in one episode, I don't remember the circumstances, but Sokka's like delirious and he starts talking to the moon. I remember that happens.
And actually, no, Yue does appear. I will say that. She does appear again.
Okay. You know what, though? I don't think this happens. I don't remember what happens to Sokka in between Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. If it's ever explained. It might not be. But he should have been like... You know how, like, if you read the appendices of Lord of the Rings, they say how Legolas and Gimli built a boat together and sailed to the Undying Lands.
Gay. In a good way.
Yeah. But they should have said, like, Sokka entered the spirit realm or something like that.
Aww.
I feel like that's something that might happen.
That might be too sad for me. I don't want to think about that.
I mean,
like, it's beautiful. Old. Because then they get to be together again, but, like, also, I don't want to think about sadness like that.
Okay. That's a nicer way to end it, I would think. I mean, the Undying Lands suck, but, you know, it's like, if you live a long life, it's like, why not?
Yeah. I would not have been, I honestly wouldn't be against it. I'm just like, oh, that's sad. Like,
I'm not saying you should do it in his, like, early 20s or something.
Yeah.
Like, live a whole life, but, you know, maybe. I don't know. It'd be weird if he, you know, to get married, but then the moon is always there.
Yeah. Which is, like, it's not a joke when it happens later for Sokka, because that is brought up again, but there's this really great frame between him and a possible romantic interest, and the moon is just dead center. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really good. It's not even, like, funny. It's just like, oh, yeah, that's still there. Like, I don't know. It's a very tragic, romantic situation that... It reminds you that this is, like, one of the greatest fantasy stories ever told.
Yeah, this is a great show.
Yeah. And then we should talk about Zuko also, because he does a lot in this episode and fails miserably.
Yeah, he kidnaps Aang at one point.
He kidnaps Aang and then has no plan to get him out of the North Pole.
Yeah.
Because he's, like Xiao, is not that smart and thinking ahead.
It is weird that Uncle Iroh's just running around with the rest of the gang for, like, the majority of the episode.
Oh, yeah. Perhaps foreshadowing? Or not really? Or just, like, a possible future or a possible world where they could all coexist together and not always be hunting each other and running for their lives together. But who knows?
But Iroh's a war criminal.
I mean, he is, but you know.
We can't forgive that. I don't know.
But Zuko and Katara face off twice in this episode, and then I like that their rematch, she's just like, nope, and like, smashes him into the earth. Like, it's not even a fight.
Like, rewatching this, I totally get the Zuko Katara thing.
Oh my god.
In the fandom. Like, it totally makes sense to me.
Are you Zutara now?
No, I'm not. I don't support ships.
Okay.
That always feels presumptuous on my part.
Okay.
Because I don't know Katara or Zuko. I don't want to be.
You don't know their wants and needs.
Yeah, you know. Like, I'm not their friend. I can't be. And even if I was, I wouldn't be like, hey, you know what? Like, they're adults. Yeah. Not really.
No, they're children.
They're literal children.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, the amount of interaction they have together, which I didn't really remember, I can see how a fandom would put 2 and 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
I was pro, like, Raylo, so, you know.
Uh-huh.
That's if you want to know where I come from sometimes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know you were that open about it.
Well, I'm pro Raylo if Kylo gets the shit smacked out of him a little bit.
Yeah, you know.
Because that boy needed to get the shit smacked out of him a lot more than he got.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Maybe lose a hand or something.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. Which is the thing that you feel like even J.J. Abrams would remember to do something like that.
Yeah.
In a series.
That he restarted, but whatever.
Yeah. Although, if, you know, like, I probably would have been really, like, upset if Rey lost a limb or something. I understand maybe why they didn't want to do it.
No, Kylo losing a limb.
I know, but, you know, Rey's the protagonist, so there's a good enough chance. It happened to Luke.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So... See, she can't be a Skywalker until she loses a hand.
It's the rite of passage.
That's the end. That's what should have been the end of the movie. She looks off in the distance and then uses her new lightsaber to cut off her own hand.
And then she's like, her last line of dialogue, that's better.
Yeah, Rey Skywalker. And then she collapses in pain. As a metaphor for the audience watching The Rise of Skywalker.
Boo. Anyways, I wanted to bring up the last fight between Admiral Xiao and Zuko, because even though Zuko's clearly trying to, like, kill him there too, when the spirits start to take Xiao, Zuko, without hesitating, tells him to take his hand so he can try to save him, and then Xiao just accepts his fate, and that's, like, the most mature thing both of them have ever done in their entire lives for each other.
Well, it's also like that sign that, like, Zuko really, it's entirely possible Zuko could become like him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He is just as emotionally turbulent as Zhao was. So, because, I mean, where his character goes, without giving things away, it's like he's a very emotional person and makes a lot of emotional decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also that thing where it's like, again, we'll get into it more as we get ahead, but it was like Zuko's an emotional character. A lot of what drives firebending is emotion, but he was treated like such shit because of his emotions. You know?
I can't imagine the effect that would have on a person.
Yeah, you know. Well, it's like, you know, the kid who, like, he was a sensitive kid and he grows up to be a bully because everyone bullied him for being so sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I've seen it happen to people, and it's very upsetting.
Yeah. And then that's pretty much it for the Northern Water Tribe. Did you want to?
We get a teaser at the very end.
Well, I was gonna work it out. I was just gonna say Sokka and Yue's father spend the last moment together looking up at the moon, and he says that he's so proud of her, but, you know, also so sad because, like, I just lost a daughter.
We should take this moment to focus on what's important about a princess sacrificing herself to become the moon spirit, which is how the two men in her life feel.
That's not the greatest message, I agree.
Yeah, you know. But, hey.
Yeah. Also, she had a mom, but we never see the mom.
I thought she died. Whatever.
No. All the moms die in fantasy. That's a thing.
There's a lot of dead moms in this show.
Yeah. It's not the best
moms.
track record. No.
Hold on, wait a minute. I got a question. Here's something I genuinely don't remember. Who were Aang's parents? Do we ever find that out?
No, we do not.
Okay. Because he doesn't even talk about him.
Yeah, because I guess the monks and the air nomads, they abandon all earthly attachments, right?
Yeah, they don't seem to have a concept of family.
Yeah, I think they just kind of like share each other, like,
which is fine.
Yeah, it's a different approach, and like, I would have liked to have explored more of that, but it is difficult given the structure of this show for sure. You know,
as Hillary Clinton said,
no,
it takes a village.
Are you proud of that?
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
It takes a temple of air nomads to raise an avatar baby.
That's why they killed all the air nomads.
Yeah.
So the gang regroups.
Do you realize, the amount of crazy conspiracy shit that the Fire Nation must have spread around about the air temple, the air nomads, in order to justify their genocide?
I don't want to think about it. It's too real.
It was like Pizzagate, like times a million.
Air Bison Gate?
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're using the bison to traffic children.
That's horrible.
And if a group that especially if it's a group that rejects the idea of family, there's a lot of talk going on in the other nations.
Oh God.
I'm just saying, that's what happens.
This episode is sad enough. I don't need to be brought back to reality.
I'm feeling pretty good.
The gang is ready to head off to further adventures, and Master Paku gives his blessing to Katara, who is now officially a waterbending master, because she's just like the best ever. And and now she can teach Aang on their journeys as he goes to look for his earthbending master. Which I don't know, I think it's nice, even though Master Paku was a horrible sexist an episode ago.
Yeah, although I think they don't leave until the start of the next season.
Well, they travel together for a little bit, and then, because Master Paku's heading back to the Southern Water Tribe to help rebuild them, because they've been too separate for too long, and it's just a line of dialogue in this episode, but I think it's such a beautiful idea that Aang is really starting to reconnect the world now.
Yeah,
it's not a big moment, and no one says it, but that's what's happening, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. It's storytelling without saying anything. It's almost like, I don't know, everything's so over-explained nowadays that it's nice when something can just sit like that.
The world without borders.
Oh, is that
Azula
a joke?
shows up. Azula shows up.
Azula does show up at the end without dialogue, but her father, the Fire Lord, tells her that he has a task for her because Uncle Iroh is a failure and Zuko is a traitor. Can't imagine what they're up to, those kooky Fire Nation soldiers.
They kind of have a kooky adventure in the next season.
They kind of do.
A lot of kookiness. The next season's pretty dark, but they have the kooky stuff happening.
You say that, but then I just remembered a certain episode that is not kooky.
I know that episode. Yeah, but that episode fucks with you because it starts out like a kooky episode. And it's like, oh, nope, you fucking idiot. Leave from the vine.
No. And that's not even the episode I was referring to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, there's an episode about one character only that is not kooky at all. And in fact, it's kind of a Western, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So that's it for book 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. We did it.
Yes, it is. We did it. We finished the first book.
Woo.
Time to close the book. But when you close one book, you open another.
Yeah, book 2 Earth coming up next week, baby. We should keep talking about the gender politics in this show, because I saw someone tweeting out that they don't want this to get the Harry Potter treatment, and I think that might be a little overreaching in terms of concern, but also I kind of get it and kind of agree.
You mean like the way where we use it as a metaphor for everything happening in our society right now?
Yeah, like we're talking about a lot of real world politics and stuff, like in the text of the show because it's there, but it is also fiction, and it's important to not hold it up to like some pedestal of perfection when discussing real world things, and maybe just talk about real world problems away from the show.
Absolutely, but I think one thing that's become abundantly clear about Harry Potter in retrospect is that if you try to make real world analogs, all it does is expose either A, how little you understand what's going on in the world, or B, that the ideas that went on in Harry Potter were actually kind of underdeveloped a lot of the time.
Also that, too. Which, thankfully, I'm happy to say, The Last Airbender mostly has developed things. Like 90% of the time, we're not really running into any problems with that stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and even when we run into problems, it's always like, it's never like, it's really like, oh, they fucked this up. It's more like, this could be better.
Yeah.
Which I think is what you want out of art, especially art you like. Mm-hmm. You always want to look at it and go, like, how could this be better?
Yeah. Because even though, like, we were criticizing some of the stuff in this first season, it's like, that's okay. I still love it so much. Like, if you really love something, you won't expect perfection out of it. You can criticize it a little or a lot. It's not. Don't have idols, I guess is what I'm saying. Don't worship blindly and shit.
Can I give a special shout out to episode director Lauren McMullen?
Yes.
Who she directed the first half of the final 2 episodes and other episodes in the season. And I want to give her a shout out because she directed the episode of The Critic that had Siskel and Ebert on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and she also, I just found this out, she directed the Oscar-nominated animated short film Get a Horse, which was that Mickey Mouse cartoon, which was like the first Mickey Mouse short they did in like a decade or something.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one.
She also worked on the canceled Pixar film Newt.
Aww.
It doesn't say if she was a director, but hey, maybe we should look a little into the Pixar history and look at the amount of times a woman was going to direct a Pixar film, and then the film either got canceled or they got fired. I think it's time we reevaluated some of that. Also, she worked on Mission Hill, which is an underrated show.
Which show?
Mission Hill.
Oh, I never saw it.
It was like, I think it had like 8 episodes.
Oh, okay. But I'm actually glad you shouted her out, because we always talk about Dave Filoni and stuff like that, and this is the only season he worked on the show before going off to do Clone Wars. So bit of due to him. But Lauren McMullen comes back for some like straight up A+ work next season.
Yeah, I think she hangs in through season 2, and then I think she leaves.
Yeah. I don't think there's any women directors on season 3. Like I was looking through it right now, which. But
that's a bummer. Yeah, there's a lot. That's always that thing that like always kills whenever like it always holds me back from being like going like full in like praising a show for its like forward thinkingness or whatever. Because it's like if you look up behind the scenes, it's like always just like dudes.
Yeah, and I mean like we haven't really talked about it, but most of the voice actors in the show are still white.
Yeah,
and it's a predominantly
which is a problem.
Like Asian cast of fictional characters.
And it's a problem that will continue into Legend of Korra.
Yeah.
As much as I love like pretty much the entire voice cast of Legend of Korra, it's still like that.
Yeah, totally. And I mean like, like I love Kubo and the Two Strings like with all my heart. Yeah. That's like top 5 movies of the 2010s decade for me. But it also voice stars a bunch of white people.
And George Takei for 2 seconds.
And they made sure to highlight that in the trailer that George Takei was in it.
Yeah, even though I think his character doesn't have a name.
Yeah, it's like Villager number 2 or something.
Yeah, I mean, but that was a weird thing where that hung in voice acting for like a long time. Like that is something in voice acting that just wasn't questioned for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Kubo was like the first time I really remember a conversation like that happening.
Yeah. And like,
there's a documentary.
It's definitely an important conversation to have, and I'm glad that more people are having it now.
But there's a documentary out there about voice acting. I think it was done by who's the guy who voices Bender?
I don't know. I've never been
John
crazy about Futurama. I'm sorry.
Fuck you.
All right.
John, I think his name is John DiMaggio or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I love John DiMaggio.
He directed the episode, and there's like a part in it where they talk about people voicing people of different races, and it's kind of like they don't really say anything. They kind of just say like, "Oh, it's not a big deal in the voice acting community." It's a weird part of that documentary, an otherwise very good documentary. Because like John DiMaggio does like a good Tracy Morgan impression, and Barry White. But he is a white man.
Yeah, so it gets odd very fast.
It's something that, it gets a little odd. Have you ever heard those Barry White outtakes?
No.
This should replace the Orson Welles one. They should be as popular. Where he's trying to read like an advertisement for some like performance he's giving, and he just keeps he's like, "This fucking script's all fucked up." Starts yelling at people. It's pretty great. Because he's like doing the Barry White thing where he's got like the smooth voice. And then like he'll fuck up and just be like, "Shit!" It's great.
But yeah, Last Airbender.
That had nothing to do with Last Airbender.
No, I'll probably cut the later talk, but not about the voice acting. That's important.
What if Orson had voiced the Fire Lord?
No, Zula. Iroh's a failure.
A treacherous Iroh.
My brother Zuko is a traitor.
Firebending has always been celebrated for its excellence.
Oh, that's the world I want to live in.
Our Avatar Roku. He should have been Avatar Roku.
Oh, fuck. That would have been amazing.
Just getting drunk in the spirit realm.
That's what the show needs. I don't need it to pander to, like, adults or anything like that, but if they move the animated stuff to Netflix, too, in a perfect world, do they continue it? Like, that's kind of what I want to see. Just, like, one episode where, like, they deal with, like, a drunk Bender.
Well, what if, like, the spirit gets so drunk it starts affecting the present-day Avatar? It's like, it's so drunk there's ripple effects through generations of avatars.
Oh, my God. I'd pay to see that.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So that's it. Book one.
Last Airbender. Book one. Water.
We'll be back next week with the next 5 episodes of Book 2. The Avatar State, The Cave of Two Lovers, Return to Omashu, The Swamp, and Avatar Day. 2 Lauren McMullen episodes, by the way, in there. So,
for some reason, I remembered Avatar Day as being an episode in the first season.
I did too.
So I was like, I was like waiting for it, and then it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see how I feel about that episode. This time around.
It's kind of a sequel to the Kyoshi Warriors, so
yeah,
we'll see. But
we'll see if it can hold up.
Yeah, but
to the episode I seem to bring up every time as like, here's how you write an episode of the show.
Well, Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorOTN1 at Twitter.com.
Preaching the good word of Warriors of Kyoshi, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
And you can find me at the Diego Crespo on Twitter. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon, where you can get access to these episodes early and other stuff too. We're doing other recordings on the Hangouts. We're talking about other movies we've seen recently in quarantine, because that's definitely going to be continuing while we're uploading these. But
what are you talking about? We're reopening America.
Yeah. We'll probably talk about
baseball's back.
What?
Baseball's back.
It won't stay back. You know that, right?
Yeah. Did you see the Fanatic was doing the wave by himself? The Philly Fanatic.
Oh no. Although
he's still doing it.
I do love that they just put cardboard cutouts in the stands. Like I sincerely love that. That's so great.
For some reason, Gritty was on top of the stadium.
I'm not even going to question it. That's just like
they were just releasing videos of him on the roof. I don't really know why.
We've been professionally unprofessional.
Bye. God bless Gritty.